I have 6 people waiting in queue. I have a panel. I'm calling it a panel tonight. And you guys know that we have been talking about the corruption going on in Atlanta, Georgia, specifically Fulton County, whether it's Fannie Willis DA office or Fulton County jail. And so tonight, I'm having LA Pink, Rambo come on with additional, I guess you could say, former employees of the Fulton County Jail. And, we're going to talk about the corruption that is going on.
Okay.
Hi, guys. LA Pink, Rambo, reintroduce yourselves. You are very familiar on my platform, but I want you guys to introduce yourselves and, tell the people why you're here today before I bring on the other guests.
Well, good
Absolutely.
evening. My name is Charles Rambo. I am a retired lieutenant with the Fulton County Sheriff's Office with over 3 decades of Office of Sheriff Public Policy expertise. I have served as a senior instructor at the Academy, having taught on management, jail, and law enforcement issues, in particular in dealing with a federal consent decree. I helped to lead the last federal consent decree in a 95% compliance rating. So I bring a wealth of objective insights into the topic tonight regarding the Federal Monitor's report and the current federal consent decree that this agency is dealing with, and to basically try to bring some perspective to the voices that you all have brought on tonight.
Okay. LA Pink.
I am the president and first lady of Street Groomers. I am the voice for the voiceless for the community. I have been fighting this fight for a couple of years now, pertaining to the oversight and the things that's been going on in Fulton County facility. And so tonight I am on just bringing awareness to the issues that we are continuously to deal with, and partnering up with some of the individuals that we are bringing on tonight.
Okay. And so what exactly are we talking about tonight? Before I bring on, the guests, because these are the people that actually worked in Fulton County. And so I guess we're going to really hear from the people that work there to give us a firsthand account of the corruption, and a lot of violations that continue to go on. So let's bring in the first person. All right. So can you introduce yourself?
My name is C Bugs, and I'm a former detention officer at the Fulton County Sheriff Office.
And Kevin?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Jones. I'm a former detention sergeant at the Fulton County Sheriff Office.
So can you, Bugs, give a quick background about yourself and things that you encountered at Fulton County?
Okay, while working with Fulton County as a detention officer, I encountered a lot of stuff. Like, it was 1 officer to 200 male inmates, especially for women. So it's like 1 officer to 200 male inmates, while we had to conduct feeding, not only feeding, pill call, what else? Blood work, for the inmates and stuff like that when the nurses come on the floor or whatever. Also, as well as, it was just a lot to do for 1 officer on the floor. And we also had tower officers who weren't trained. They sometimes lock us in the zone with the inmates. It was a zoo around there.
And Kevin, how long do you still work for Fulton County? And but if not, how long have you been working for Fulton County jail? You're muted.
I've been with Fulton County Sheriff Office for approximately 6 years. I've been there 4.5 years. I left and came back. So during my time coming back, basically, I was directly affected by a murder for hire plot targeting me, which created serious personal and professional challenges.
Mm-hmm. Do you still work for them or no?
No, I
No.
just
Okay.
recently resigned.
Okay. And you was there for 6 years.
Correct.
Okay, my name is Elle Pierce. I was there probably almost 2 years, and I basically dealt with the same thing, dealing with 200 inmates by myself, feeding, pill calls, um, changing changing from top to bottom. Sometimes don't have a tower officer, so I have to go from door to door, open the doors. Um, Stressful days, working long hours, barely get a lunch break. Um, we didn't have like people to come check on us as much as that we needed by us working by ourselves, especially as females working with all these men by ourselves. So I experienced a lot of stuff within a year and a half.
And are you still there or no?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And Theodore, you could unmute.
Yeah, my name is Theodore Robinson. I've got 25 years of law enforcement experience. Spent most of my time as a police officer. I did 2 years at Fulton. One of the issues with Fulton was that we just didn't have enough personnel. Let me turn the radio down. And like transporting inmates, once I transported a guy, he's accused of 6 homicides. Of course, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. Radio did not work in the Grady Memorial Hospital. In addition to, I'm the only one I'm transporting by myself. Many of the Grady officers always transport these guys, and they should be transported with at least two deputies. And we have to take them to surgery. I actually got in an argument with the doctor once because she refused to put him out until I take the shackles off. I said, I'm not going to take the shackles off, man. So it was a nightmare. The leadership, no structure. And as soon as I left the place, well, I'll discuss that later. So I
Okay.
left of my own volition. Yes.
And how long have you been there?
I was there for about 2 years and 3 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. Q, hi. You can unmute.
How y'all doing today?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I really appreciate you coming on. So introduce yourself and tell us, a couple of things that you had to encounter at Fulton County Jail.
Yeah, so it's no secret. I'm Q. I'm Quentin Coleman, and I was a deputy at Fulton County. Went through the training center, whatnot. There as a new deputy coming on. I came there on an invite from the sheriff himself, coming to fix the jail allegedly, and all of these things, and give him some insight on how we could make the place better, which was all a lie. Or whatnot. But my time there, a lot of people will recall I stood up uh, and asked them a question in a town hall meeting probably 3 years ago at this point, and I asked them straight up, why can't we pull everybody to the jail to get the jail under control? The same thing the consent decree is doing now is what I told him 3 years ago to do.
Right.
He didn't care. That was at a time when none of the elevators worked in the jail. That was at a time when officers would be fighting with inmates for 3 to 4 minutes with no help responding. This was 3 years ago. This was before all of this stuff is occurring now.
Mhm.
So it's no secret. Labutt does not care, period. He ain't going to care. He does not care. And the sad part is the way you got to be in a circle to be promoted. The good leaders around that place are hidden underneath the covers because they're not, excuse my language, kissing ass and, doing the things that he requires. They more than likely speak up to him. They don't sit in the meetings and, let him cuss them out and degrade them and things like that. So, this thing, I don't know who the gentleman was at the BOC, but he said it correctly. Nothing's going to change in that place until he changes, meaning he leaves. He has no discernment. He can't appoint leaders. He doesn't know how to appoint leaders. We can't name one time that he has taken any responsibility for anything on the news, in person, in a meeting, anytime. His favorite line is, if you leave his agency, he's going to make sure you never work in law enforcement again. Well, here I am now. So he won't get the last laugh, but that's part of his MO. He's arrogant, and he has no type of want to fix. At this point, I'm gonna go as far as to say need, because it seems like to me, it's a lot of players involved, and it's not just him. The fact that he's able to go this long, I'm watching the governor take action on all these other sheriffs and all these different things. So there's something going on along the lines of why he's being able to conduct himself the way he's conducting himself. Yeah, I wasn't gonna say this tonight, but it's no secret. Sheriff Labutt got on the news and said it's all salacious. He's called my house at 12 o'clock with all types of allegations and all of these things. So I'm just waiting on an opportunity when he's going to speak on how he's ruining so many young people's lives by recruiting them to this jail. He's not training them. He's not training them properly. There is no training system. Now I'm hearing that you're bringing allied security from the mall to put in the towers now. These are the things that's going on. We've had officers stabbed in the neck, officers stabbed in the head, officers fighting with inmates assaulting women. All of these things happen in this jail. And for some reason, the news in Georgia does not like to report, probably because they're paid by him. So it's a revolving door.
A
A lot
revolving
of the players.
corruption.
Say again.
A revolving door of corruption.
Yeah, it's sad. I never thought. I came from living in Virginia Beach, retired Army and all of those things, and I was excited to come to Atlanta to see so many Black leaders in charge. And I'm really believing this is the worst mistake I ever made. I've never seen nothing like it for our people to be this corrupt. Sheriff Labutt is more interested in looking like, Barack Obama riding around Fulton County with the black trucks and all of this crap. I'm sick of seeing it.
More questions and criticism tonight regarding a $200,000 Sprinter van bought by Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labutt during the pandemic.
The sheriff says the Mercedes-Benz serves as a mobile command center during high-profile situations.
But as Fox Eye's Angelique Proctor tells us now, some residents and even commissioners don't approve of taxpayer money being shelled out for the controversial vehicle.
Getting the first look at the customized Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van that Sheriff Patrick Labutt purchased for a mobile command center. But some Fulton County taxpayers and even some commissioners are not convinced.
We know the sheriff went out and bought a $200,000 Mercedes-Benz van that looks like something off Pimp My Ride that he's claiming is an emergency mobile control center.
The pictures I just saw is not a command vehicle. When I asked about it, it was said that it was a command center. Now, if it's not a command center, I don't know what an executive mobile command vehicle is. The van has created controversy because it was purchased without any bids during the pandemic.
That goes for his wife. It's a brand, that's all they care about. It's a brand. It's some type of, it feeds his ego, if I will. It feeds his ego. He wants to be important. He wants to be that guy. He knows I don't care, about him. Hear me say it. But he's got so many hidden agendas. And the biggest problem for me is the amount of lives that are getting ruined under this guy, not just deputies and detention officers. He's actively got people that are in the agency that's going through mental health crisis because they need a job. I understand it. They need a paycheck. So some of them can't come on here and speak out.
Mm-hmm.
I know 100 of them that want to. 100 of them that sit next to him in meetings. The main ones that feed the information out here for what's going on. All of these people want to speak out, but they cannot because he holds that thing. He can manipulate these people to think the BOC is the reason they didn't get overtime pay and they didn't get all these things. No, you blew the money, Jack Crap. You blew the money.
Well,
You bought all these fancy cars, all of these things.
Well, Quentin,
Yes, sir.
if I could, let me bring it into perspective. And you brought up some very, very, very great points. But Dana and your audience, I want you guys to know that this is all recorded in the Federal Monitor's first report that staff are fearful of reprisal. They're fearful of speaking up. These are facts that were reported in a federal report before a judge. So these guys are not coming on and just making up things. You hear the BOC having a voice in the news. You hear the sheriff having a voice in the news. So I'm going to respect the fact that these guys have come behind, they may have gotten their separation, whichever way they've gone, but these are the ones that are speaking out tonight so that you can really hear that federal monitor's first report come alive from those who are fearful, that are on the inside. Have some respect for these people, particular for Miss L.A. Pink, who has stepped forward and really galvanized these deputies to come together. When she goes down to the Board of Commissioner meeting, she raises hell when she could otherwise stick on inmates as well as the homeless. She has taken up the calls for deputies and detention officers. So if you're listening out there, deputies and detention officers, if you're brave enough to go in that jail and to face the dangers that you do, don't be coward and don't be scared to come on a platform under your First Amendment right, particular under what's called Pickering rights, to speak out on issues that are important to the public, like these guys are doing on your behalf tonight.
Let me say this, because I have seen news reporting clips of Fulton County Jail and the conditions, but it was mainly family of inmates. And because and they're released, there'll be videos of the cells and how dirty it is and the conditions and the bed bugs. It always circulates around the inmates, whether it's inmates selling drugs and the correction officers helping them, and the general public. They're gonna judge and say, well, they're criminals, so they don't need to be in a lap of luxury. But it's different when you have former employees, you're talking about there for only 2 years or maybe 6 years, saying, no, this is what's going on. This is the corruption. This is what this man, Sheriff Labutt, is doing. For me, it does hit different from the people who have worked there, giving their firsthand account of the things that, they're not doing and the lies that this administration, continues to tell the public. And I came across Sheriff Labutt via Fannie Willis, because for me, I think they're connected, to a certain degree. But I want to ask about payment, pay and compensations, right? So, did you feel that your pay and compensations matched the danger and workload you faced? Anybody could jump in and answer that if you want.
No,
Of course not.
no.
And were there any lawsuits that the security officers or employees filed against Fulton County Jail? Because if there have been officers being stabbed or hurt on a job, has anyone ever filed a lawsuit?
Well, to speak on that, I investigated a report with one of the officers being stabbed in the neck, and I was unable to complete that report because they locked the video. And after I conducted my investigation, it came down to an officer error. But of course, the officer didn't speak out because they received hush money.
Yep.
If that makes sense. So that's why no lawsuits is being filed against them.
So
Yeah.
to caveat on that, it's no secret, you get hurt at the jail, the sheriff is going to buddy you up and say, what do you want? Which is why you see an influx of people going to things like mandate that don't need to be in mandate, that don't need to be deputies. So you get hurt or you have some type of complaint or things like that, then your ticket out of that from, coming down on a bad light on the agency is you go to mandate. And that's how he butters people up, because I can make it happen, per se. That's what he'll tell you. So as far as the compensation, now I'm a fair person. When he took office, Fulton County was severely underpaid. So in all fairness, he did petition to get the funds to try to raise the pay to be competitive. But then he also took a lot of funds. He raised the pay for it to be competitive, but he allows your conditions that you're working in to get 5 times worse by
Yes.
taking the money that was allocated for the jail and putting it where he wanted it to go. A sheriff with 5 personal vehicles on the county's dime is outrageous. A $200,000 Sprinter van, but we'll get to those things. But it amazes me how he bamboozles the people at the jail to believe that it's the board of commissioners' fault on why they don't have the things they need in the jail. I was in the jail when 7 South looked like a hotel, when it was repainted by the inmates, when the doors got fixed, when Chief John Jackson was fixing those things and had a team around him, when the sheriff told him to slow down because he was making the jail look too good, because his whole goal is to get a new jail. So he's intentionally sabotaging that jail to get a new jail. He knows what's going on in there. He doesn't come by because he don't want to be a witness to it being in there, so you can pinpoint it and say sheriff was here. He's never there because he don't care what's going on there. So he knows all of these things that's going on in the jail, and it's just one of those things. All he wants is a new jail because it's much easier to run a new jail like an ACDC that's already clean and that's already in this condition versus having to come in and actually be a sheriff and fix the problems that Fulton County may have. I'm gonna tell you right now, Fulton County jail can be fixed in 90 days. I stand on that. I take it to the bank with the right leaders in place, the proper training, and just giving a damn about your people. Fulton County Jail, Rice Street can be fixed.
Now, United States of America is the plaintiff versus Fulton County and Sheriff Labutt in his official capacity. The monitor's first report. What is that? And is that going to help the conditions that's going on in Fulton County?
Let me provide some context for that. Is that the first thing that happens is, first and foremost, a consent decree. In my experience over the years, a consent decree really is an insult, is a slap in the face that government does not know what the hell that they're doing in governmental operations. Because ultimately, a consent decree is a mass of grievances that have not been answered by the inmates and by the staff to say we can resolve these issues. Now it turns into a class action lawsuit. Then it now comes into being a consent decree. At that point, you appoint a federal monitor that now comes in and essentially says, okay, commissioners, okay, sheriff, okay, police chief, I'm sent here to do the job that you were otherwise elected or appointed to do. With that, that person now comes in and files reports of their findings of their floor visits, as you will see in this federal finding report, and giving their observations. And watch this, the sheriff has refuted the Board of Commissioners. The sheriff has refuted other instances that have been reported in the news, but you've not heard him not one time and refute anything about the consent decree or the findings. So we have to accept that those things are legitimate and at his official capacity. Failure to perform ministerial duties that are required of him under 1516-10 and I believe 42, I forget what the other code section for jails. So when you get a federal monitor's report, it's saying, I've now given you a time frame between the filing of a consent decree and the posting of my first report to say what has improved. And if you look at this, the most damning thing that it says at the beginning, it is still dangerous and desperately understaffed. So when you hear these guys coming forward, they're saying essentially since the time he took office in his second term and when the federal consent decree was filed, nothing has changed. That's not Charles Rambo's words. That's not any of these guys' words. That's the federal monitor's words. So they're looking for improvement because now what will happen if those improvements don't happen? Now you got to start thinking about federal receivership where they will take the jail away. So it's a progress report. It's a report card. And right now it's a F plus.
And what about the governor of Georgia? Like, is there a chain of command that people can report the sheriff the county, officials? Like, is there a chain of command that can be reported of these horrific conditions for the employees and the inmates, but definitely for the employees? Has there?
Well, I'll say it this way, for the employees themselves, and that's why another reason I'm on tonight. I served as the union president that defended deputies all the way from the courthouse shooting, all the way through other issues, as their union representatives that address these issues. So that brings again the expertise of it. But when it comes to the governor is the only person that can take action against a sitting sheriff. He is a autonomous figure by the nomenclature of state government as a constitutional officer, as a state constitutional officer. So it takes the governor to step forward. I believe like this last one up in, I can't remember what county, they are investigating him for some malfeasance and some misperformances. So it would take the governor now to look at this report and say, hey, what's really going on over here? And now you got to figure out, why is the governor not taking the most appropriate action, particular where lives are affected, but I'm going to say it, with Black lives in the nation's civil rights capital of the world are steadily declining as we speak right now.
I think you're absolutely right, Rambo. And I think the bigger problem is the sheriff feels he's bigger than the governor. It comes out of his mouth that he's the only one that can arrest Governor Kemp. That comes out of his mouth. So the problem here is he thinks he's bigger than the governor. He thinks he's smarter than his monitor too, which is why he's carrying on the same way. That's why things haven't changed.
So, okay, but isn't the sheriff elected? This is an elected sheriff. So why do the people of Fulton County keep electing him into that position?
That would be a whole different another conversation. Let's stay focused on this because we can open a can of worms on that one.
But did anybody?
But it is an elected position. It is
an elected position, and I'm like, but and he doesn't have a law enforcement background, but he does have a porn background. So I'm just saying.
Mama.
I'm just like, why does this man keep being elected into office? I want to highlight grievances and incident reporting, right? And Kevin, Bugs, you guys can jump in as well. From your experience, were grievances ever taken seriously, or were they just paperwork that went nowhere? And also, did you ever see inmates denied a real way to file complaints, and how did that play out on the unit?
So inmates, pretty much, if they have a complaint, they'll go ahead and send their write their grievance, and it'll go to the grievance people. When the grievance people arrive to the floor, they take those grievances and I guess investigate them. But I think if they feel as though that the grievance not suitable, they'll just go ahead and say, this not legible, we'll just go ahead and close this case. Now, if it's something pertaining to, an officer was looking at me while I was in the shower or something like that, they'll take more serious. But for the most part, most of those grievances get handled the wrong way.
But they don't really take anything the right way. Tell them about Judas.
Judas Wilson, he was one of the inmates who always stated he was suicidal. But protocol is no matter how many times inmates state that they're suicidal, we have to take them to medical. So with Judas Wilson, in this particular day, he was denied medical care by the mental health director, and they placed him on the floor by custody. That same day, he ended up committing suicide and killed himself. So now is a thing to where they're covering up. It's evidence out there, it's proof out there, but it's like, who can you report it to? Because it's like everybody is in bed together.
Well, if you come back and you would follow as a sheriff the previous consent decree orders that you say that were the final orders and you were in compliance, you would have staffed the floors with 4 officers on each housing pod, 1 in the tower, as well as a supervisor present. With that, you would have adequate staff to address these issues and quell down violence. So we have to understand that internal order and discipline is the 100% statutory responsibility of the sheriff. The building itself, crumbling or not, that's the problem of the Board of Commissioners. But do you have your inmates under control? The next thing of that, as you talked about the incident reports, particularly the grievances essentially are First Amendment rights of the inmates, that they have a right to petition government for a redress of their grievances. And if you have people who, as Kevin just said a second ago, that are coming to the floor and say, oh, we can't read it. No, then you get someone who can interpret it. And that's the reason why you have a consent decree, because those grievances have gone unchecked. This is why you have so much fire in the minds of inmates just tearing the damn place up, because they're not getting any justice. And that's another point inside of the federal monitor's report, that she says that inmates don't trust the staff. They don't trust the processes.
Hey, Judge, how are you?
Yeah, I've had difficulties. Don't even ask me about it. But look, let me say what stuck out. You sent me the interim report, and it's got to do with the consent decree from the federal officer in charge. The thing that gets me is the finding that you have approximately one detention official per 200 inmates, which is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, now let's get away from all of the civil rights considerations. The thing that stands out is when you check back, you find that there is adequate funding that's been sent to the sheriff to staff the penal institutions in question, so that there is adequate supervision, and there is not. One of the things that stands out buried in this report is, where is the money? Follow the money, and it disappears. So what happened to the money that was supposed to be allocated to change or rectify that situation of one officer per 200 inmates, which is, that just doesn't happen. You've got a situation in the report where it's reflected you might have on certain shifts one officer per floor. And then you juxtapose the gang infiltration situation that is recited in that same set of findings, and you've got a hell of a mess. Now, that imputes, one, that there is a hell of a morale problem with the personnel. There is absolute incompetence and ineptitude when it comes to administrative management of the facility. And somewhere along the line, the question is raised reasonably by the circumstantial evidence that is apparent that something has happened to the money that should not have happened to the money. So where is it? That ties in with Fonnie Willis's situation, wherein we find there's $7.5 million that's supposed to have been allocated by the state government in Georgia to catch up on felony prosecutions. There is $2 million to deal with sex crime prosecutions, and there is $500,000 that has been allocated to juvenile matters, and it all seems to be missing for a total of $10 million that somehow or another is evaporated with no effect, which has got to do, I suspect, with why they want her to be subpoenaed and give testimony before the state legislative committees that are involved. Now, I tie all of that together and I look at something interesting, because some of the things that Fonnie Willis said during her exposition that was totally at odds with our Fifth Amendment rights and very condemning to her side and self-incriminating. Some of the words, phrases, and ways of describing things suggest to me that there is an organized crime situation that is very, very deep in Fulton County, and somebody needs to look into it.
Yeah, it seemed like that whole county, that whole system, is just corrupt. Like everybody, they're all stealing. You stealing from the jail, the DA corrupt. Everything is corrupt. But I've said this since 2024 when we were always reporting on Fulton County. You know, why the people in Atlanta, why y'all keep voting them in? Like, why do you keep voting them in? And then too, that is for another show, which I would love to have you guys come back and so we could talk
Can I
about.
say something briefly about that?
Mhm.
I had a political science major at UCLA. We got taught some of those old homilies about American government. And it has been long said that in a system like ours, you get the representation you deserve. If your representative are defective, deficient, that's because the constituency that is electing those officials also has the same thing wrong with them. So that might say a lot negative about Atlanta.
Well,
I would say about as far as the election, and especially when it comes to the sheriff, now that we are some things are coming to light about the results that's coming out. And Rambo, you might want to kind of, you don't have to go all into it, but briefly talk about the two Republicans that they are trying to keep out of office right now for the Board of Election, and can shine some light up on Rambo's election as far as, them saying that the sheriff got 100% when we all know that he did not get 100%. But these two individuals that they're trying to keep out of office, they can bring some light to his particular campaign. I don't know about anybody else's, but maybe Rambo. And I know that you don't want to get into the fact of you running and all of that, because this is not what this is about. But when you ask the question about why do the constituents keep electing him, he was, as far as my point of view, he was not elected. He was chosen, and they placed him there.
Yeah, that's fair enough, and that makes sense. That goes on.
Election fraud.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Big time.
Right.
That's different.
Yeah.
And that says that the people that are the constituents need to insist on an investigation of the election fraud.
Which is happening.
Yes.
I want to ask about the federal government. So with this monitors report, this is the federal government saying, hey, we want a monitors report every 6 months. Well, what happens if they don't make improvements? Do the federal government come in and shut it down?
They don't have to, and they don't. In Memphis, Tennessee, in 2006, the Department of Justice issued a finding that the voting machines used in Shelby County, that's Memphis, were hopelessly corrupted and hacked. 2008, they put up the money to replace the machines. 2018, the machines hadn't been replaced. 2023, they were and kept in a warehouse for a year and a half, and they were first used in a general election, 2024, which was how long was that?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about
16. In other words, 16 years after the fact was noted. Now, to your point exactly, every 6 months, the Department of Justice issued a set of detailed findings about the continued corruption of the election process here. Yet nothing was done until 2024. There was a threat. 2023, excuse me, there was a threat delivered to file individual lawsuits against each of the commissioners if they did not do something to correct the problem that it had the money up for 2 decades to correct. And every 6 months, a negative report came out. By the way, for your edification, January 2020, there was a report by the Justice Department issued on Tuesday that there were no significant instances of election fraud in the 2020 election. Yet on Thursday, the same month, the Department of Justice issued its finding that once again, in the 14th largest county and city jurisdiction in the United States, the election process was corrupted and not reliable. So that just says because the feds come up with a report does not mean that any action is taken upon it. You guys have to insist that something be done and make a loud enough noise about it. I think you've got an administration in place right now that would love to take action.
Well,
Well,
that,
Judge, if I could back right into that, and as you make it appertain right here in Fulton County, the next steps would be that if there is not compliance, usually after 2 or 3 reports, then the federal judge gets a little antsy and now will come in with the threat of federal receivership in taking the facility. That doesn't mean they own the place, but that means they will keep the place until they see improvements come up to a constitutional standard. Right
It,
now, the sheriff has a lawsuit in place saying that the commissioners are interfering with his constitutional authority. Well, at the end of the day, I think more or less the inmates are showing a disdain for his constitutional presence, because otherwise, if you don't have internal order and discipline, then you're going to continuously see failing report after failing report. So it comes from the inside. If he can't get it together, then they're going to bring in somebody that can.
well, I'm just saying we suffered for 17 years of, actually, there were quarterly reports issued every 4 months. So every 3 months. So we suffered 17 years of negative quarterly reports. Federal courts didn't get involved. The Department of Justice didn't file any lawsuits, and this situation was allowed to continue ad nauseum and work great injustices in what happened in this county. And it's still going on because
so
they really haven't corrected the problem. But those are the things you have to deal with, and that's what you're doing right now. We're trying to help you get a little PR behind the problem that you're having in Fulton County because it's ridiculous.
I want
It
to
Mhm.
should
want to go
not
to
happen.
I want to go to Theodore, because I know you're somewhere where you're busy. So I want you to be able to have a chance to speak. Do you want to speak to, any of the conditions or anything that you experience working at Fulton County?
Yes. One, if you can hear me, one thing in particular, I had a great leave record. I turned in almost $5,000 worth of leave. I didn't take leave. I mean, sick leave. Make a long story short, the moment I put in my resignation, they took $2,400 from me immediately. I said, okay, they took the bonus that they paid me back. In addition to that, 2 weeks later, they turn around and take another 8,000 of my money. And I'm trying to reacquire my money now. But they're not going to retain people like that. Now, he couldn't keep me out of law enforcement, but I assume that that is his way of getting back at me. And I was not a disciplined person. I wasn't in trouble or anything.
How do they take 8,000 of your money that you work for? They can't, that legally they can't do that, can they?
They don't put it in your paycheck and you have to sue them.
So basically, to piggyback off of Theodore, what happened to him was he came in when they had the sign-on bonus, which was $10,500.
That's right.
So when he came on, they start giving him, breaking up the money, giving it to him into his checks. So they stopped giving him the checks when he reached like $2,500. And when he resigned, they took the $2,500 back from him. But the additional 8,000 was money that they never even gave him. So it's kind of like they taking their $10,500
Go ahead, Mario.
from him.
Yeah.
See, what happens is they
Mario.
earn interest on it. They get to use it and make money off of it.
Mario.
When it should have gone to you, perhaps. And by the way, may I make a candid suggestion? There's a website that's designated followthemoney.org. Followthemoney.org. I would strongly suggest that you go to that website and introduce the name of your sheriff and see who's been giving him money and what he's been reporting versus what the people who have done the contributions have reported. And you might find a trend that leads you to, shall we say, exposing stuff that's not too savory.
Because I had a situation. Can I say I had a situation to where I got suspended for 5 days, and I appealed it. And during the appeal, me and my attorney we seen that they had falsified some documentation and some signatures that had been forged. So basically, I won my appeal. And after I won my appeal, the job pretty much stated that I owed them money. So they took it out of my appeal money. So it's kind of like they still, it's a mess. It's a lot of corruption going on in Fulton County.
So to speak to the bonus as well, I had a particular situation. And the county attorney knows, and every last board of commissioner knows about the situation because it was brought to all of them. So Sheriff Labutt decided it was a good idea to call my home at midnight drunk, asking about a relationship with his wife. So after that, I called him the next day and said, "Hey, look, you need to let me out of your agency. You need to let me go." He refused. I have the text messages to prove all of this that I'm saying. The Board of Commissioners have the messages. The county attorney has the messages. The first thing they asked me to do after they saw the messages was sign a non-disclosure agreement, in which I declined. Next, they asked me what I wanted. I don't want the county's money, don't need the county's money. I just asked to leave the agency. Sheriff Labutt did not want to let me leave the agency. The county had to force him to let me leave the agency without paying any of the bonuses back, any penalties, anything. And I had gotten the whole entire bonus. But because of his actions, and I have the document that I can give you to put up on this screen, Sheriff Labutt had to sign this document, allow me to leave, and agree not to pay any of this back because of his own actions. I say that to say this is who he is, hence the statement, if you leave my agency, you're not going to work in law enforcement anymore. Hence me, on the 25th, I have to go before a grand jury for impersonating a peace officer, in which I am. Something involving one of his deputies in a traffic stop. So these are the games that he plays with people. These are the games he plays when he can't get his own way. You know, these are the senseless and petty games that he likes to play with people. So to that defense, I encourage everyone to go down there to the county because they pick and choose who they want to let out without paying those bonuses back.
You know what?
If you, like he just stated, if you go look at it and follow the money, it's a lot of people ain't paid the bonus back.
Okay,
But if they feel that you ain't gonna say nothing, that's when they're gonna snatch it out of your check.
Look up the Georgia criminal statutes on extortion.
Yeah, because that's what it sounds like, just extortion.
Yeah.
And also there is a federal thing on that too. So you might contact the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI, and you will find that this current administration probably will be very receptive to what you might tell them because they're looking for a way to, shall we say, restore equilibrium.
Say that again, Judge. Can you repeat that? Because I think that's very important.
And the current administration is looking for avenues to restore equilibrium in the circumstances of Fulton County and Georgia. And let's just say that when you do what you did, meaning what Fannie tried to do to somebody who, in spite of her best efforts, got returned to the Oval Office, let's just say that a lot of people who may be involved in the current government are aggrieved by those circumstances and are looking for an opportunity to set things right.
Yeah. And is it a good idea for them to also reach out to their state senator?
Oh, all the time. That's always a good idea if your state senator is receptive and not part of the problem.
He's part.
Now, let me tell you something that happens.
They're part of the problem.
Let me tell you something that happens. Your state legislative body is very upset with what's been going on in Fulton County. Now, I'm not giving anybody any legal advice. I'm just playing law professor right here. Looking at your state statutes, you have an interesting situation. Your elected district attorney, Willis, has neglected to comply with at least one set of subpoenas issued by the state legislative body. Your state Supreme Court says the legislative body has the authority to issue the subpoenas and to investigate the topic that they are interested in. Now, here's where it goes from there, which is something you might be able to help out on. If she does not comply, the legislature has three remedies now that it's in full session. One, to order the sergeant at arms to take Fannie Willis into physical custody and bring her before them. Two, to file a suit in a circuit court in Georgia and proceed against her and deal with contempt findings if she doesn't comply with the subpoenas. And three, there is a retaliatory thing they can do against Fulton County about cutting off funds when one of the constitutional officers of that county does not comply with their dictates relative to the financial allocations that they've come up with. Next thing that comes in is you can approach some of the, shall we say, more sensitive members of the commission or committee involved and apprise them of some other considerations that are going on in the entirety of that county, and they may be quite willing for their own purposes to expand what they're doing.
Okay.
Clue. Cause trouble, in other words.
Right.
What I like to do.
So I want to go around because I did say 30 minutes, but we're creeping on an hour, and that's fine because this has to be said and put out there. And I knew it was going to go over 30 minutes, but I want to go around and have you guys, just speak to anything that maybe, I forgot to ask or you forgot to mention, and just tell the people, what's going on. And, and if there's anything that the public can do to help shed a light and expose, the Fulton County jail. So Bugs, you've been quiet. I'm gonna start with you.
I just feel like instead of them holding like the people in power accountable, leadership gonna always target the lower ranked people. They're gonna always target us. So they're never gonna be held accountable unless like the public speaks up, get behind us like how Pink is. She's for us and the inmates. But until, like a lot of people are scared to speak out about it. Like I got a lot of friends at the jail right now to this day. I found out a lot of stuff that's going on to this very day, but they're scared to speak out. But I feel like if everybody gets together, get him out of there, guess what? They won't be scared to go to work. They won't feel like their job is on the line. We just all have to get together to get him out of there. Like, who wants to be scared to go to work to lose their job or be in jail? Like, that's crazy to me. You arrest your own people. You're not arresting the right people. Like you're arresting good people who go to work every day, people who have perfect attendance. Those are the people you're arresting. When the real people are behind you.
Right.
The crooks are behind you.
Yeah, the real criminals.
Yeah, the real criminals are behind you. So yeah, that's my take on everything. And I stand on that.
Sergeant Jones.
Okay, and I just want to just piggyback off of her because I've been there for 6 years and I witnessed a lot. And the sad part about all of this is that you are arresting the lower ranking officers, but you have actual deputies that's on the street that's committing criminal crimes and stuff like that inside the jail on camera, but you protecting these individuals. And it's like for the public, there is a lot they can do. They can go to the BOC meetings and stand out and speak out, because at the end of the day, when somebody get hurt in that jail or even the officers and then a lawsuit come, the sheriff not getting affected. It's the BOC that's getting sued. So that's where most of the problems coming in. They don't care because it's not coming out their pockets.
Theodore.
I think the biggest thing is they have to raise the level of competency. I've never seen so many incompetent people can't write reports, and have complete lack of integrity. I remember one day I'm in EEC, that's a a place at Grady Hospital. We bring in emergency patients. Make a long story short, the APD officer came over and asked me, did I know who this captain was? And this guy, he was apparently running lights and sirens, almost made it, well, he made a citizen fall down, and he kept going. And of course, I said, yeah, I know who that is. And, nothing was done with it.
Mm-mm.
Before I go to Q, Pierce, I know you can't be on camera tonight, but did you want to say anything, Pierce, or add anything?
Well, yes, it's just like the same that my fellow workers said. I even say accountability because you have your captain, some of your supervisor who's not even checking on you. Some of us don't even want to call for help because then they'll complain about, oh, you don't know how to run your floor. So I'm like, now you stuck like, do I want to call help so I won't be getting frustrated? Like, oh, you don't know how to run your floor, you can't manage your floor. But as us being women, we managing the floor with 200 men by ourselves daily. I mean, what else can we do? Like, if we need help, we just need help. But a lot of us didn't want to ask for help because we worry about the captains or somebody else complaining about you don't know how
Yes.
to run your floor. Which we know how to run the floor, but when you need help, you need help. So accountability and for anyone to be safe there, I just feel, and as I've been there, I only seen women being arrested. And we see men do worse. We see men do this, do that. They get a pat on the back and we go to jail.
Q.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I agree with everything everybody's saying. For me, it's simple. When I was there, I was known for speaking up for people, for the people I work with, for my peers, for my colleagues, and I'm going to continue to do that even while I'm no longer there. The biggest thing for me is accountability. But how can we expect accountability, integrity when the top dog has none? So, an army saying is shit rolls downhill. If he can't get it together, nobody else is going to get it together. If he never has a presence in that jail, leaders are going to sit in the watch command and do what they're going to do. They're not going to go to the floors. They're going to allow one officer to do head count on two sides of the jail. I used to ask questions when I was there. Why all the sergeants in the watch command? Why is all the lieutenants in the watch command? Why are you so above helping an officer do head count? Why are you above? Because the precedence has been set. There's more lieutenants and sergeants and captains in the jail than it is detention officers and deputy.
And can I
So
piggyback
who?
once?
Go ahead. So my last part is you don't even have people to be led. You just got a bunch of leaders wanting to be in charge.
Hmm.
And just to
Yes.
piggyback off of him, it's more commanders than it is staff. And when Judge asks where the money is going, with the commanders alone, that their payout is equal to over $4 million. And you just keep promoting leaders. Well, they're not even leaders, they're incompetent leaders. So you
Yes.
keep promoting. So that's where all the money is pretty much going.
Mm-hmm. One more thing before I let you guys go, and I meant to bring this up earlier. Gang activity, right? Because there have been several reports hitting the news about they're selling drugs as if they're outside, on the street selling drugs, and correctional office helping or whatever. But the gang activity, and I kind of want to link it with Sheriff Labutt because I'm pretty sure he's aware of that. Could it possibly be some type of correlation with gangs and the sheriff, or gangs and the people that are in charge? Because it seems like the gangs are running the jail there.
It's bigger than us.
Mm-hmm.
For example, for me to get a hit placed out on me because I found drugs and I notified my supervisor 2 weeks prior to me finding the drugs, where the drugs was, and they didn't do anything about it, which has made me believe somebody else is involved. It's bigger than me. And guess what? To this day, no one called and checked on me. I had to move, change my number. So it's a lot of corruption going on. A lot.
Okay, so if you're doing your job and you bust a gang member or gang activity going on inside the jail and you report them, they threaten your life, and they would threaten other correction officers' lives and literally put a hit out on you. And
Correct. And this is federal. My situation is actual federal. It hit the news and everything. Well, not the news. An article came out with the FBI and stuff like that. But again, a lot of people don't want to take on the story because the sheriff, people getting paid under the table. There's a lot of corruption going on.
and that's what I'm saying. So if they're protecting these gang members, I wouldn't be surprised if they were all in cahoots together.
Who can we call to arrest them? You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like we could talk to the FBI, but it's like the FBI not really responding back to us. So it's like, is y'all in on it too?
Well, you mean the old FBI, not Patel, not Cash Patel, because he's the new FBI director, or is it the FBI chapter? I guess in your state, because now
Office.
right,
The
office. So this is a new administration. So and what the judge was saying, earlier is when it comes to these, this the Trump administration. I think this is a good time to bring his administration in the loop
On this.
county. Yeah, get in on it.
Really quickly, what's strange to me is I forgot the gentleman's name, but the same federal prosecutor who basically initiated everything with Victor Hill had way more things on Sheriff Labutt, and he had so much nice things to say. We're going to work together and we're going to do this. But I look at a sheriff who actually had a jail under control and had order and had these things. Now, I'm not here to say, he's perfect or this and that. But from what I've seen in my own eyes and research is a sheriff who had structure in a jail, who didn't have numerous, people dying and black men and women dying in jail, was indicted for something way less and pettier than a 5-page rap sheet of things going wrong in your jail. Same prosecutor, different story, different outcome. So that
Maybe
tells
he's got
me
an
there's
interest.
something. It's bigger than Nino Brown.
Maybe he's got a vested interest.
Who, the prosecutor?
Good
Well, I
drug
believe he stepped down
transaction.
right before.
A good drug transaction, or several of them, can bring you in several $100,000 very quickly, and you're making $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
And your retirement benefits are crap. Your state pension is minuscule. So, yeah.
Well, I would like to have a call to action. And this is just for any inmates. This is for any other security officers. You guys have the right now to walk into the Supreme County Clerk and request for a lien on his bond. I have already written a letter of a complaint to the governor, Governor Kemp. I have already written one to the Board of Commissioners in reference to the actions that we can all begin to take, and that we can all begin to learn about how these this procedure works. And I would just love for anybody to get involved with let's making that happen. We have several on the call right now, and we need more. But these are things that we can do to remove him, and that is go after his bond. And that's what we need to from here on out just start focusing on, is everybody start putting in a complaint. If you have been hurt, if you have your money, your wages tampered with, those are avenues and ways that we can go about attacking his bond, because as we know, he's high risk, and that they didn't even want this one particular bond company didn't even want to take him on without an additional $25,000 cash. If I'm not mistaken, altogether it came out to like $50,000 to $75,000 that they're asking for him to have on his bond. But this was the only company to assure him, and that is, if we remove that, he will no longer be sheriff.
Let me make a suggestion. It's not legal advice, but you might want to contact DEA, because I have a sneaking suspicion that if they got remotely curious, they might find some heavy drug activity in there.
Absolutely.
And if they use their resources, they might find some interesting connections. Another thing all of you might do, or secure somebody who can do it for you, is go over to whatever county entity is responsible for collecting the financial intake and output of that particular agency, meaning the sheriff's department, and see if you get the numbers adding up. Do not rely upon a computer to do it or their system. Get the raw numbers and then do a paper spreadsheet. You might find that there's a hack in the computer system, which is becoming a common thing, so it doesn't show up because everybody wants to shortcut and do the computer. But try and get an old time paper spreadsheet and you might find something very interesting and your problem gets solved.
Right. Well, listen, thank you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on and share your story, share this information. And I would love to have you come back on to let's do a follow-up in October. And hopefully there been some type of leeway and progress, with the corruption going on in Fulton County Jail. And this is just the jail. So, but thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys coming.
Dana, may I close out with one point?
Yes.
Yes. Sheriff Labutt, I know you're listening. I know you have people that are watching the show. And this is my direct parenthetical pause to tell you, as I've said before in the last commissioner meeting, you are divinely under judgment. As I said to you at that particular meeting on live TV, your administration and your leadership is under the judgment of the Creator. And unless you get in and change and turn this thing around, you're going to continuously see plague after plague. And this is not Charles Rambo sitting up here trying to sound prophetic. Everything that I have said in the public has come to pass. So either you're going to show some improvement in terms of the next federal monitor's report, not just for these deputies who had the courage to come up and to speak, but for the millions, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of inmates to come through that jail that look just like me and you, is going to be the stain on your legacy in terms of how you treated Black folks in the cradle of the civil rights movement of Georgia and the world. Don't let that shame fall upon your legacy as well as the legacy of this community. My name is Charles Rambo, and I approve that message on behalf of the Creator who ordained me to speak directly to you.
Well, he already put that. I think he already put the shame. He already shamed himself. Now it's just a matter of getting him up out of there and actually exposing the corruption, because I think a lot of people in leadership need to be in handcuffs. So Fanny, Sheriff Labutt, and a whole bunch of other people. So
Say it again.
I keep thinking of the video clip that we played last year where the character that plays opposite Labutt in the gay male porn
we
thing.
can play it on here. That's on the website, and it's still on the
but we
website
played
at
it on here too.
therealdananetwork.com.
And he tells him, "Get your fine butt back in bed so I can get back on top." I can't get away from that Gomorrah-like action. Saying, look, this is a bad enough thing. Let's not bring the curse of Sodom and Gomorrah upon Atlanta, which is what you're trying to do. Hate to say it, but we want to go biblical.
Yeah, that's his claim to fame, honey. All right, thank you guys. I appreciate
Thank you.
Let's do a follow-up in
Thank you, guys.
October. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
right.
so much.
Let's do
All
it.
right. All right. Listen, that was a great panel.
Yeah, I told you it'd work out. See, when you have people who are used to working in an organization or a structured environment, they can behave in a structured, orderly fashion. That's how group things are supposed to work. There's no cross talking, no over talking or whatever.